Okay, we shall start the webinar. Uh, Welcome everyone. This is Sida, and today we are going to talk about PFAS regulation and how it is impacting the business worldwide. So the screen appearing, which shows the topics which are going to be covered in this webinar. Initially, we are going to explain about the introduction to PFAS, followed by worldwide regulation on PFAS, and then recent development and proactive measures, followed by how to comply with the PFAS laws, and then economic impacts and their related penalties, followed by future scope and challenges, and then the best strategies with possible API compliance solution. And it will be followed by the conclusion. In this session, all the participants except the speakers are muted. The meeting is being recorded and it will be shared after the session, maybe in a couple of days. There may be a survey at the end of this webinar. You can provide us with your valuable feedback, which could help us in improving in the next time. If you have any questions, you can drop an email to us and we will take those questions separately. To tell about myself, I am Hidayatullah. I have almost 6 years of experience working on various compliance regulations, and I am a senior compliance expert in API engineering. You can note my email ID here, and you can contact me anytime for any of your queries. And this is a small introduction to APA. We are a 23-year-old global company. We have ISO 9001, 27001, and TISAC certifications. In our company, we have 4 divisions. In this, compliance is one of the prime division. Then we have the engineering, sourcing, and software divisions. We also have developed our internal compliance software, and our customers can purchase this software, which is specially designed to manage the compliance data of a company, data of product that customer is selling in a single window. We have almost 350 plus customers, and we work on various global regulations such as REACH, ROHS, Prop 65, TASCA, PFAS, battery directives, ESG, German supply chain, etc. We have also handled customers such as BMW, Lamborghini, Mazda, especially on this compliant front. In a single window. Let's start with the webinar with the introduction to PFAS. PFAS are large, complex group of synthetic chemicals that have been used in consumer products around the world since 1950s. They are ingredients in various everyday products. For example, PFAS are used to keep food from sticking to packaging, or cookware and making clothes and carpets that are resistant to stains, Teflon, foam, packaging cosmetics, etc. So in short, they are a group of man-made chemicals. They have been in use in a wide range of industrial and consumer products, and they are well known for heat, water, and stain-resistant properties. However, recent studies have shown PFAS can be dangerous to human health and environment. These chemicals are highly resistant to degradation, which means that they can remain in the environment for a longer period of time, and they can accumulate in the bodies of humans and animals. And they have the tendency to cause liver damage, obesity, fertility issues, cancer, and many other things. So now it's a time for a quick poll. Please respond to the poll question appearing on the screen. Okay, let's move on. Now we shall see on worldwide regulations for PFAS. There is no specific regulation enacted at the country level to regulate the usage of PFAS in products. However, there are steps being taken to curb PFAS usage by restricting its usage through other regulation. For example, European Union has implemented a number of regulations regarding PFAS, and they are identified as potential health and environmental hazard, which with sometimes being associated with cancer, immune system effects, and other adverse health effects. Here we have listed some of the key regulations for PFAS in European Union. The first one is the REACH regulation. Under EU REACH, PFAS are subjected to strict registration and evaluation requirements. Companies that manufacture or import or use PFAS in the EU must register their substances with the European Chemical Agency, that is ECHA, and they have to provide information on their properties, uses, and potential risk. Recently, there was a public consultation from March to September, and this consultation was to ensure to include the PFAS substance in the upcoming regulation. Maybe in the next year, we can expect a judgment on this consultation, and by 2025, we can expect these substances to be regulated under REACH regulation. The next is persistent organic pollutants regulation. The EU POP regulation aims to eliminate or restrict the use of hazardous chemicals that present in the environment and can accumulate in the food chain. Some type of PFAS such as perfluorooctane sulfonic acid and perfluorooctanoic acid are listed as POPs and are subjected to strict restrictions on their production, use, and disposal. We have Water Framework Directive. The EU's Water Framework Directive sets standards for the quality of surface water, groundwater, and coastal waters in the European Union. PFAS are included in the list of priority substances, which means that member state must monitor their levels in the water bodies and take action to reduce or eliminate their presence if necessary. The next is Food Contact Material Regulation. The EU Food Contact Material Regulation sets strict limits on the use of chemicals in materials that come in contact with food. Some type of PFAS such as PFOA, PFOS are restricted in food contact materials due to their potential health risk. Likewise, we have ECHA restrictions. In addition to the above regulations, the ECHA has proposed restrictions on the use of certain type of PFAS, including perfluorohexane sulfonic acid and perfluorononanoic acid and perfluorodecanoic acid. These restrictions would limit the use of these chemicals in a variety of products, including textiles, leather, and firefighting foams. So overall, the EU has implemented a range of regulations to address the potential health and environmental risk associated with PFAS. These regulations aim to ensure that these substances are used safely and responsibly, and that their presence in the environment and in consumer products are minimized. And now we shall see on the regulation for PFAS in United States. The first is EPS Lifetime Health Advisory. The US Environmental Protection Agency, which is the EPA, has set a health advisory level for two PFAS compounds. The one is perfluorooctanoic acid and the other one is perfluorooctane sulfonic acid. At 70 parts per trillion in drinking water. This advisory is non-enforceable, but it is intended to provide guidance to states and the public water systems on safe levels of exposure to these chemicals. The second is Clean Water Act. The Clean Water Act regulates the discharge of pollutants into US waterways, including PFAS. The EPA has proposed adding certain PFAS compounds to the list of toxic pollutants under this act, which would allow more stringent regulatory limits on their discharge. And we have TASCA regulation. The TASCA regulation regulates the manufacturer, importer in processing and distribution of chemicals in the US. In 2019, the EPA added almost 172 PFAS compounds to the TASCA list of chemicals that are subjected to reporting requirements. This means the company must report any production or importation of these compounds to the EPA. And as per TASCA section 8A7, the EPA has the power to promulgate a rule mandating the disclosure of data related to PFAS by any entity that has manufactured or imported products in United States. This data can be of any type. It can be chemical information, category of use, production volumes, byproducts, environmental and health effects, exposure data, and it could be disposable method for PFAS. And this rule is applicable to all entities, regardless of size, those who have manufactured or imported PFAS in any year since 2011. We have small manufacturers with 24 months to report PFAS data to EPA, while all other entities have 18 months to report their data to EPA. This rule is important because it provides the EPA with critical data to better understand and manage the risk associated with PFAS. This information will help the EPA to develop informed policies and regulation to protect human health and environment. These are few points on importance of this TASCA 87A rule. The first is impact on small business. The EPA recognizes the potential impact of this rule on small businesses. As such, the EPA took steps to involve small businesses in the rule-making process and to consider regulatory flexibility alternatives. The next is Small Business Advocacy Review Panel. In April 2022, the EPA convened an SBAR panel to provide input on proposed rule. The SBAR panel included representatives from Small Business Administration, that is the SBA, the Office of Management and Budget, OMB, and the EPA, as well as from small business and trade associations. And the next is Initial Regulatory Flexibility Analysis, which we call it as IRFA. In November 2022, the EPA released the IRFA for public comment. The IRFA analyzes the potential impact of the proposed rule on small entities, estimating burdens, cost, and potential regulatory flexibility alternatives. These are few important points regarding TASCA section 8A7. Likewise, we have one more regulation in the United States, that is the Food and Drug Administration guidance. The FDA has issued guidance to the food industry on the use of PFAS in food contact materials. This guidance recommends that manufacturers avoid using PFAS that have been phased out or being phased out due to health and environmental concerns. Likewise, we have state-federal regulation. With regards to federal regulation, Maine state in the USA is the first one in the world to prohibit the sale of products that contain PFAS. From 1st Jan 2023, the law requires manufacturers to report the product that has intentionally added PFAS. The reporting should be done to the department. Failing the reporting requirements, products such as carpets or rugs and fabric treatments can't be sold in Maine state if the PFAS are intentionally added on it. Effective from Jan 1 to 2030, any product containing intentionally added PFAS may not be allowed to sell in Maine unless there is an exemption given by Maine government. We shall know a little bit about the recent development in this law and the proactive measures. EPA's new drinking water rules. In March 2023, the EPA made new rules for drinking water. They want to limit 6 types of PFAS, including PFOA and PFOS. These rules are not final yet, but they are open for public comments until November 2023. There have been grants for PFAS research. In June 2023, the EPA decided to give $10 million for research about PFAS can affect our health and the environment. And regarding the states which are taking action, some states are also doing things to control PFAS. For example, California banned PFAS from being used in cosmetics since July 2023. Next, we shall speak on how to comply with these country-specific PFAS laws. For PFAS compliance, we shall take an example of a specific state where the PFAS laws is in force, especially the state of Maine in the United States of America. So in Maine, manufacturers must provide the following details to the end customer, and they have to report the same to the Maine government. The details include description of the part, CAS number, and the percentage of PFAS used, and the uses of PFAS, and the address of manufacturer. Failing to comply with this legal requirement before 1st Jan 2023, no products can be sold in the state of Maine, and the non-compliance can lead to hefty civil and criminal penalties such as $10,000 per day. Apart from Maine, other states such as California, New York, Massachusetts, Oregon, Vermont, etc. also implemented the same type of reporting requirement to regulate the usage of PFAS substance. Apart from EU and USA, several other countries such as Japan, UK, China, Taiwan, Singapore, Vietnam, etc. are also working to enact a state-level similar regulation for regulating PFAS, and we can soon expect a global level ban on PFAS usage. And we shall now see about the economic impacts and the penalties related to non-compliance. The economic impacts of PFAS in both United States and European Union are significant. We can broadly categorize these impacts on the economy as follows. The first category is cleanup cost. Both in USA and EU, significant resources are being allocated to clean up PFAS contaminated areas. These cleanups can be extremely expensive, particularly in case of widespread contamination, especially on soil and water. Costs include soil and water remediation, monitoring, and infrastructure development. The second category is healthcare cost. PFAS exposure has been associated with various health issues, including cancer, thyroid disorders, immune system defect, and developmental defects. The economic impact includes healthcare cost for diagnosis, treatment, and ongoing care for affected individuals. The next category is the legal cost. Businesses involved in the production or use of PFAS may face legal liabilities and costs. These includes legal settlements, compensation, claims, and the cost associated with lawsuits related to PFAS contamination. Next, we have regulatory compliance cost. Companies in industries such as manufacturing, textiles, and chemical production are incurring expenses to comply with increasingly stringent regulation related to PFAS. This includes investing in technology, training, and testing to meet regulatory requirements. The next category is lost productivity. Worker productivity can be affected when health issue related to PFAS exposure arise. Employees may require time off work for medical treatment, and business may need to manage the impact of reduced productivity among affected workers. Then we have declining property values. Property located in areas which are known for PFAS contamination may experience a declining value. This can affect homeowners, property investors, and the local tax base. Impact on agriculture and fisheries. PFAS contamination can affect agriculture and fisheries. Impacting crop yield and the quality of food produced. In the European Union, this can lead to economic loss in the agricultural sector as well as in United States. Loss of consumer trust and brand value, which is the next category. Companies associated with PFAS contamination may face a loss of consumer trust and brand value. Negative publicity and the perception of environmental irresponsibility can lead to decreased sales and market share. And the next is R&D and product development cost. As regulations on PFAS become more stringent, businesses may need to invest in research and development to find alternatives to PFAS in their products. And the last category is trade and export implications. Trade restrictions and export limitation may affect industries that rely on PFAS containing products, potentially impacting international trade and economic relationships. So these are the few economic impacts we have listed here, but it is important to note that the economic impacts of PFAS are not uniform and they can vary depending on the scale of contamination, the specific industry, and the region. Moreover, these economic impacts are expected to evolve as regulations and public awareness of PFAS risk continue to increase. Efforts to address PFAS contamination and its economic implication under strict regulation. It includes research into remediation technologies, development of PFAS-free alternatives, and increased corporate responsibility in managing PFAS throughout their life cycle. And in this slide, we shall speak about the penalties for non-compliance. Penalties for non-compliance with PFAS laws and regulation can vary depending on specific regulatory framework, the jurisdiction, and the severity of the violation. Below are some of the potential penalties for non-compliance with PFAS laws. The first is the civil penalty. One common type of penalty is the assessment of civil penalties or monetary penalties. The amount of the fine can vary widely and may be based on factors such as level of contamination, the duration of the violation, and the potential harm caused. The next is the criminal penalty. In some cases, serious violation of PFAS laws can lead to criminal charges. Individuals or organizations may face fines, probation, or imprisonment if they are found guilty of criminal misconduct related to PFAS. The next is regulatory enforcement action. Regulatory agencies such as EPA in United States or ECHA in European Union have the authority to take enforcement actions, including orders to cease certain activities, corrective action orders, or injunction to stop violations. Then the next category is remediation cost. Non-compliant parties may be required to cover the cost of remediating PFAS contamination, including cleanup and restoration of affected environment. These costs can be substantial. And we have legal liabilities and lawsuits. Non-compliance can result in legal liabilities and lawsuits. Affected individuals, communities, or entities may sue non-compliant parties to seek compensation for damages, health problems, or property devaluation resulting from PFAS contamination. And then we have loss of permit and licenses. Business operating under permits or licenses may face the suspension or revocation of these permits for non-compliance with PFAS regulations. This can significantly disrupt business operations. We have product bans or recalls. In cases where PFAS containing product do not meet regulatory standards, they may be subjected to ban or a recall, which can be a financial implication for a manufacturer or for a distributor. Then we have the reputational damage. Non-compliance with PFAS regulation can lead to significant reputational damage, potentially resulting in a loss of customer, partners, and investors. And then we have increased monitoring and reporting requirement category, which is regulatory agencies may impose more stringent monitoring and reporting requirement on non-compliant entities. Thereby, it will be increasing the cost of compliance. And at the last, we have business implication. And it is going to affect the overall growth of the companies. So overall, it is important to note that specific penalties and enforcement mechanism can vary between jurisdiction and regulatory authorities. In some cases, penalties may be outlined in legislation or regulation, while in others, they may be subjected to negotiation and legal proceedings. To avoid these penalties and the associated legal and financial consequences, it is crucial for business and individuals to stay informed about PFAS regulations and to take proactive measures to ensure compliance and address any PFAS related issues promptly. Consulting with legal and environmental experts can be essential in navigating the complex landscape of PFAS regulation and compliance. And now we shall see about the future scope and challenges. There are many updates in PFAS at the global level, and all these updates are likely to focus on key areas such as development of safer alternatives, remediation of contaminated sites, monitoring and research, and international collaboration. We have several countries and global organizations taking a step forward to identify the harm of PFAS group, and soon more stringent regulations are expected to be enacted in different countries. We have few challenges in reporting PFAS. The listed here are few of the challenges, but in the reality, we can have even more challenges apart from this. The first one is regulatory diversity. Each state has its own set of PFAS regulations, making it difficult to stay compliant. The next is the supplier management. Gathering accurate data on PFAS content in product requires extensive communication and data validation. Then we have data integrity. Ensuring that PFAS data is accurate and up to date is crucial for compliance. And then we have reporting complexity. Different states may require different forms of reporting, which can be time consuming and challenging to manage. And we have waste management and disposal challenge. That is, PFAS containing waste require specialized treatment to prevent leaching into the environment. Now it's time for a quick poll. Please respond to our question appearing on the screen. Now we shall see few strategies and best possible compliance solutions. The best strategy includes regulatory intelligence. It means staying informed about the latest development in PFAS regulation and leverage digital tools to track changes. The next one is decentralized data management. Implement a centralized system for managing PFAS data, including data collection, processing, validation, and reporting. Supplier collaboration. Forging strong partnership with suppliers and establishing clear communication and expectations for PFAS data reporting. The next is the compliance auditing. Regularly auditing your compliance process to identify the areas of improvement. And the next category is compliance software solution. Consider adopting compliance software solution tailored to PFAS management. So these are few of the strategies which we have listed here. There can be even more strategies apart from this, but what we felt is these are the most important and that which have a potential impact in the PFAS reporting. And the best possible solution which API can offer is because of the following reasons. We can render complete end-to-end support till your product is notified by the concerned authority, be it your customer or be it the government authority. We will study your products completely to determine which product require notification. We will reach out to all of your suppliers, to all of the supplier in your supplier base to get the chemical composition, and we will check if they contain any PFAS. If it contains any PFAS substance, we will make note of it and we will take action accordingly. We will consolidate the child part information to determine product level PFAS presence. We shall prepare a notification either through email or through our softwares and share it with the customer or with the concerned authority, be it United States or European Union or any country in this world. We have our internal API green check software, which will be very useful in identifying and reporting the PFAS data to the concerned authorities. These are few screenshots of our API compliance software that help us to manage the data of different compliance regulation of different products. Here in our software, we include regulations such as REACH, ROHS, Prop 65, which is specific to California, TASCA, BPR, EU battery, and we have many other regulations which we are monitoring through this software. And all the data collected from our supplies will be stored in this software, and the information which is required to be submitted to our end customer, which can be derived from here directly. Likewise, we have software for conflict minerals, IMDS, and other specific compliance regulations. So the question here is, why should we need to choose APA for compliance? And the reasons are, we are 70 plus member compliance. We have a 70 plus member compliance expert team who are all well experienced in this domain. We have deep domain expertise across different compliance regulations, and we have sophisticated IT tools for process automations, be it softwares or internally developed softwares and other things. Our domain expert is available at a phone call away. If you have any queries, if you have any information need to know, you are just away from us with a phone call. You can directly call us and take the information whatever is required to you with regards to compliance regulation and their updates. We can even do multi-language support. So we shall now move on to the conclusion. If your part is sold in any country where a PFAS regulation is implemented, hasten to comply with the new regulation. If your country still has not implemented laws related to PFAS, then don't wait for it, rather be prepared. Your product may be subjected to any time to this PFAS regulation. We have different countries working on it to bring a regulation, and there is a possibility the law can be implemented at any time. So we have to be prepared, and we need to fulfill all the reporting requirements with the concerned authorities. If your country doesn't impose any hefty penalties for non-compliance, don't wait for it. Don't risk your business. Penalties could be millions of euro. We have an example of Dew Point. They are paying $1 million, almost more than $1 million to the EPA for PFAS released in the US water bodies. We had a case where the PFAS substances are released in the US water bodies, and because of that, the concerned entity, which is the Dew Point, they are paying almost more than $1 million to the EPA agency. So people can see how non-compliance could potentially end up in penalty and settlement, which will be a huge setback for a growing business. So for all the duty holders, our first action should be act immediately if not started. So a survey shall be initiated before closing this webinar window. We kindly request you to fill that survey, and with that it will be useful for us to improve in our next webinar. So we have came to an end now. I hope this session has made you understand PFAS in a much better way. Currently, we have a question from one of our attendees. Their question goes as follows. In general, does PFAS has any threshold? So the answer is yes, PFAS has threshold. That means there is a level of exposure above which health effects are unlikely to occur. However, the threshold level will not be same in all the context. It can vary depending on type of PFAS and the tendency of how much impact it will create on the interaction with human health and the environment. Sometimes the release of PFAS is less than the threshold level, but it will still cause an impact on people who are likely to be old in age, or those who are children or person of less immunity. So we need to be prepared with all these type of interaction. So in general, we can say yes, PFAS has a threshold. I think we are. I think we have almost reached the time limit. So if you have any queries or questions related to this webinar, we kindly request you, or we expect you to feel to contact us anytime. We have given our email ID to you. You can make a note of this and you can contact us at any time with any of your queries. We will respond to you with a clear solution as soon as possible. So I hope everyone has got good insights through this webinar. Thank you for your presence. Thank you, everyone. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.